Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. World on edge. U.S. Special Forces board Russian flagged tanker in Atlantic. Global tensions are skyrocketing as American forces have forcibly taken control of Russian flagged oil tanker in the high seas. And Moscow is furious, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this dramatic confrontation marks one of the most serious clashes between the US and Russia in years and could reshape geopolitics. Yes, so on January 7th, after more than 2 weeks of intense pursuit across the Atlantic, ladies and gentlemen, now US military and Coast Guard personnel successfully boarded and seized a tanker now identified as Marinera, previously known as Bella 1. Okay, so officials say the vessel was connected to a network of ships that have tried to evade American sanctions tied to Venezuela's oil export. So this isn't just another naval story, ladies and gentlemen. It is a high stakes stare down between superpowers. Russia had reportedly dispatched naval assets, including a submarine and other warships, to shadow and protect the tanker as it moved north towards Europe, showing Moscow was unwillingness to back down. So why this was matters? The US says this tanker was part of a shadow fleet used to transport oil for sanctions nations and entities including Venezuela and possibly Iran, linked companies, despite earlier was an attempt by the US to intercept in near Venezuelan waters. It even changed its name and repainted it with hull, trying to escape American enforcement. Washington justified the seizure with the US with federal court warrants, claiming violations of sanctions and illegal operations on international waters, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the operation involved especially trained boarding teams and advanced maritime patrol support. A show of force, ladies and gentlemen, with global ramifications. Okay, so but here is the twist, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Russia has condemned the actions as was unlawful, accusing US of violating international maritime law and calling the seizure piracy. Moscow is demanding the immediate return of the vessel and the human treatment of its crew. Global stakes rising, ladies and gentlemen. So this incident comes amid broader tensions, including recent US actions against the Venezuelan government, and highlight the growing risk of confrontation on the world stage. If two naval superpowers start with boarding each other's flagged vessels onto the high seas, what comes next, ladies and gentlemen? So, ladies and gentlemen, if you actually want ongoing coverage and expert analysis of this development international crisis, please just like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. Okay, stay with us for updates you won't see elsewhere, ladies and gentlemen. Now, to be clear, this seizure isn't just maritime enforcement. It is a flashing point that could alter diplomatic relations for years to come.